Hello and welcome to the PHNX D-backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montia, occasionally known as the mayor of PHNX, and I have replaced Jesse with my new vice mayor of PHNX. It is Patrick Lyons. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, Jesse, I hate to break it to you on the show like this. It might be awkward, but of course, this show is brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use our code of PHNX, and simply for betting $1 on NBA or NFL to score a point, as long as either team does score a point, you will get $100 in free bets. And again, the last basketball game I could find that still ended in a 2-0 tie. That was Bibb County versus Brookwood in Alabama high school play. So your money's probably pretty safe on betting on an NBA game. But thank you guys for joining us. Of course, I am joined by Jesse Friedman. I don't even want to talk
to you, Derek. I don't want to hear it.
I know. Well, I'm still mad at you for, drafting Daniel Descalso in the first overall pick in our D-Rocks draft, but we'll get to that, obviously.
Better than taking Matt Reynolds. All right, Derek?
Hey, I lost because I took Matt Reynolds, right? Next to me, of course, from the DNVR Rockies podcast, it's our pal, who we're acquiring in the draft. It's Patrick Lyons. A player to be named later. I don't know who we're sending over, but I'm excited for you to be here. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. I thought my title was going to be comptroller.
Okay, we can make you comptroller. That's kind of a meaningless position, but there's a lot of paperwork behind it. But yeah, we got the comptroller of PHNX now.
That's
officially.
Perfect for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So guys, we had some baseball. Me and Patrick, we were still having some fun at AFL games. The Arizona Fall League has been a blast. I am not as sunburned today and not as dehydrated as I've been. It says 81 degrees, but it feels like 100 in the sun directly. But yeah, we've been watching the D-backs and Rockies prospects on the rafters who have kind of been losing quite a bit. So that's something we're used to around here.
We are, yeah. And again, it's when you're dealing with prospects, it's not so much about the wins and losses. It's about development. At least that's what you tell yourself when you don't have the wins and losses. See, the Rockies minor league affiliates did pretty well. Spokane, like in A-ball, they went to the championship series. The Arizona Complex League, they won that. Dominican Summer League, Rockies did really well. So we are very excited about the 2025 roster, baby.
Yeah,
we're taking it all. We are taking it all.
All right. Well, that's when both of our teams' time will come to shine. But right now, there's a lot of free agency news. Obviously, as Jesse and I talked about on last night's podcast, so much of this is impacted by the new labor agreement and everything that's going to happen with that. But just a lot of rumors, right? You have some news about some Rockies players being connected to some new homes potentially.
Yeah, John Paul Morosi from MLB.com reporting that the Tigers have some interest in John Gray, and I think they may have even thrown a contract out there, thrown a couple bucks out there, floated some numbers, and that was my DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week last week on the DNVR Rockies side was an early Tigers to win the World Series. It was like plus 4,500.
Yeah.
They're going to be in on a shortstop. Is it Carlos Correa going over there? But they're going to have some money to spend. Their tank is pretty much over. And John Gray would be a perfect little piece as number 2, number 3 starter, a veteran guy with all the young pitching that they have in Detroit right now.
And Detroit is really, they are connected to several free agents. It seems like they are going to be spending some money this offseason. We don't know if they'll be successful in landing any of those guys, but it does seem like the Tigers are connected to a lot of the free agents out there. I know Carlos Correa, they were one of the teams that seemed like for a moment there, rumors had him going to the Tigers.
Yeah, I like that. It seems like a natural fit to reuniting with AJ Hinch, but Javi Baez, playing some time in Chicago if they want more of a short-term deal. I'm not exactly sure what their prospect situation is at shortstop going forward. If they've got someone, they just need to keep that seat warm. Of course, Trevor Story, I think, could be a fit Colorado guy, whereby again, it might not totally blow up the payroll, if you will, with a $200-300 million deal, which is something that Carlos Correa could expect. With the Yankees out there, they're already right now over the luxury tax. Like, even if they sign nobody, I think they are already over. And yet they're still like, do we want Corey Seager or do we want Carlos Correa?
Who are we going to spend, more money on? It really is, and again, we spoke about this. Jesse and I talked about, does it translate over? And at what point do you stop giving up? Even if you have all of this money, like the Dodgers and the Yankees, is there a point where you stop going after the biggest names on the market and trying to find pieces that are just potentially a better fit for your team, just not the most expensive, players on the market? It's a really weird concept to me, because other teams like the Rays have built their entire philosophy on not paying guys, right? But the reason why is because baseball really is one of those games that there are few elite players in this league that can stay consistently good throughout the majority of their career, like a Buster Posey, right? Who's retiring a year after having one of his better batting average seasons, as of late, right? So like, it's just wild how few of guys, really deserve those big contracts, but teams are willing to throw it at them when they think, this is the next big superstar.
I know Jesse is probably gonna have an answer on this one, but how many of those big $200 million free agent contracts? I mean, you don't even necessarily count Tatis, right? Because that was more of an extension. But how many of those big deals have translated or correlated to a World Series? Obviously, the Angels with Pujols, Josh Hamilton, CJ Wilson wasn't even 100 million, I don't think, but that was certainly a lot at the beginning of this decade. That nothing came of that. So I don't know that these big deals even translate to championships. Can you think of any at this point, Jesse? What's the biggest one that's really worked out? They don't jump out like, oh, this is the final piece. It's not like the NBA, where if you can bring in that big contract, that final guy that you need for the big three, whatever it is, you're going to the finals. It's just, that's not the case in baseball.
I think those big contracts, in some ways, you could make an argument, do more damage than good at the end of the day. Because not only is it, you might only have a few-year window where you can really go out there and try and win a World Series, which is hard to do in baseball. Like baseball, there's a lot of volatility in the playoffs. Even if you do have, a really top-notch team going into the postseason, there's no guarantees of anything, right? And the problem with a lot of these big deals, especially like the Pujols deal that you mentioned, is that on the back end of that contract, it's hard to do much of anything for, 4 or 5 years, because your salary is just completely bogged down. Your payroll is bogged down by paying a guy, 35 million or whatever it was, who actually is like not even a viable major league player anymore. Right.
Yes.
So even like yesterday, Patrick, Derek and I, we went ahead. We spent Ken Kendrick's money all over the place.
We were just like throwing it around. Yeah.
We basically just dreamed up like, okay, if money was no object, which obviously it is, but if money was no object, who would we go out and sign if we were the Diamondbacks? Carlos Correa's name didn't come up because we don't want to give 10 years and 320 million, even if we could. Right. So like those deals come with a lot of risk. And like you said, Patrick, we don't really see them work out very often.
I mean, shoot, the Rockies only spent $70 million on Ian Desmond, and that's like this contract that's like laughable. Like, oh man, that was just atrocious, and it didn't really, cripple them financially, but it was still, viewed as one of like, oh man, you'd love to have that one back again. Like that's how critical a $15 million annual salary can be to a smaller market club like that. But the one thing that the Diamondbacks have and Arizona has is a little bit more certainty. When you sign a guy to a free agent contract, you pretty much know what you're going to get. Still probably are not very happy with Madison Bumgarner just yet, but I think wait for this bad boy to play its whole way out, and it might be okay. Desmond did a good job with some of the younger guys and helping out, and was a good leader in the clubhouse. Again, is that worth the contract? I don't know. But Bumgarner, what he does as a leader, you might find that out years later on down the line with what he does with a guy like Zach Gallen, the Umbertos and all that.
Yeah, we've speculated quite a bit about that, right? Because, again, we don't really know shit about what's really going on behind closed doors, right? I've had very few instances where I felt like I was in the clubhouse with, the core couple of guys that the Diamondbacks players sometimes felt comfortable being themselves around, right? Baseball players, athletes in general, the reason why some of their interviews after the game are boring is because they are canned. They've been trained to say certain key phrases that will keep them out of trouble and word things in a certain way that are boring, but at least answer your questions enough without, making any kind of controversial remarks, right? But when the cameras are off and they're just being themselves, some of the ridiculous, funny stuff you hear from these guys is amazing. I've talked about Zach Greinke's finest moments being when all the cameras were off and we were just kind of hanging around for a bit too long, and he started calling like Archie Bradley a loser and stuff like that. It was very memorable moments, right? And things that
we miss Zach Greinke around here.
Yeah, we really do, right? And so Madison Bumgarner is one of those guys that I don't know if, like, he doesn't seem to me like the mentor type, right? But he also does not tell very much information about his personal life. He doesn't even want to give up his game plan during a media meeting. If they want to ask, like, how are you planning on approaching this guy that's a hot hitter, he'll openly say in the meeting, like, I don't want to discuss that. Right? Like, I'm not giving you guys.
I mean, that's pretty fair, though. Like, I don't know if that many pitchers are gonna want to disclose.
You'd be surprised.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna.
Well, because people just answer questions.
Ask that to Garrett Cole? Wasn't that like famously asked to Garrett Cole about how he was gonna face Shohei Ohtani? And he just had like the most hilarious answer to that question.
Right.
Like how do you answer that if you're a pitcher? Are you supposed to like actually tell him like what you're actually planning on doing?
Some do. I think it depends on your maturity, your time in the league. Like, some guys are honestly just gonna tell the truth, and then there's going to be guys like Madison Bumgarner that have zero problem telling us, no, I'm not telling you that information, right? I think, would it be Justin Verlander? Was that maybe the last big contract that added to a team that put him over the hump for the Astros?
Well, that, of course, that was, in a trade. So,
you're talking about like a free agency signing straight up.
Yeah,
that's
free
a good
agency.
Point.
I mean, A-Rod's contract did, net the Yankees a World Series in 2009.
That was a while ago.
Exactly, right? So it's,
well, and it's kind of like the correlation. Like, I understand the idea of spending, right? When you look at spending, and especially something that's going to come up with this labor agreement, is spending and how much teams should be allowed to spend. It's egregious that the Dodgers literally spend almost $100 million on the next closest team, and that next closest team is the Yankees. Like, that's insane. And then those two teams can kind of just run away with things financially, but it still doesn't obviously translate over to them being the most dominant teams in the league. The Dodgers have just won, the one World Series. The Yankees have not won a World Series since that 2009, right?
They won a World Series, quote unquote. Come on, it's 60 games.
There it is. He's an asterisk guy.
Yes.
For the purposes of the podcast, yes. Why not? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and say that. Hey, you got another one of those 60 game seasons?
Yeah.
And to your point, with these larger market clubs, they've got all the advantage. And we talked about it a couple of days ago on our crossover about how if you make a mistake, you can pay for it literally financially and get away with it. Whereas the smaller clubs can't, which is why they say, you know what, we need to compress our years of contention into a much shorter window because we can't guarantee that we can rebound. Think about the Red Sox in 2020 during the shortened season. I think it was almost brilliant. They said, you know what, let's kind of tap out of this thing and we can get a really good pick, which they got the 3rd overall pick and stole Marcelo Mayer, high school shortstop, which was fantastic, replenish their farm system a little bit, and then they can still recharge and go back out the next year.
Right.
Well, the smaller market clubs, they need to tank, and that's something that's being addressed, or we think might get addressed in this upcoming CBA, if there should be a salary floor. But if there's going to be a floor, that almost could change the salary cap, the soft cap. They might want to bring that down. The owners would, and then that's going to thereby then really tamp down the contracts. I think I
like how Scott Boris's idea though is to make teams spend more money. Like, no, it's not capping the teams that spend too much. It's these damn teams that spend less than $100 million. They're the real problem, right? I don't know. I mean, I think that it was a question that was proposed in a recent Arizona AZ Central article that we're going to get to, some comments that Mike Hazen made, right? But I mean, at times when you look at a team like what the Diamondbacks did, were they going to be competitive this past season? No. So when in the long run, both business-wise and team-wise, organizationally, doesn't it make sense to just keep some of that money in your pocket and wait to spend down the road versus now when you know you're not going to be even close to a contender with what some of these teams are spending? Absolutely. The problem is you never know when a team is going to be the Giants, right? The Giants were expected to be good, but they were expected to finish third in the division.
That's right.
And they won more games than they ever have in franchise history with that team. Baseball is a sport like that. You have no idea when teams are going to catch fire or when, players are going to all of a sudden, reach that next level. It just seems like, right now, as we discussed last night, 17 teams are trying to compete next season.
According to Mr. Scott Boras.
According to Mr. Scott Boras. Is he wrong, though? I mean, is he wrong? Is it not one? Like, we said that about the Diamondbacks before the season even started. It was blatantly obvious them, the Cubs, and a whole other litany of teams were not going to even try to compete in the 2021 season. That made a little more sense because of the financial insecurity, right? The lack of financial security, the lack of knowing when fans were going to be led back into stadiums this past season and when they were going to be able to get back to full capacity and all of that, right? So that made a little bit more sense, but going back to things being back to normal, now it just seems like teams don't want to even try to compete before the season's even started.
Yeah, and I think they, provide a tough bargaining table, so to speak, when it comes to free agents. That's why the qualifying offer was $500,000 less than it was last year, because, since the last CBA was negotiated at the start of the 2016 season, the teams have really helped tamp down contracts in a major way. I think maybe the 2017 offseason was really the first time that you started to notice that guys were getting a lot less money in free agency, and was like, is there some kind of collusion going on here? Because it really seems like it. And there was, after the 17, 18, and even 19 offseason, guys were just not getting the money that they thought they were going to get. I think Mike Moustakas might have even signed 2 one-year deals back to back before he finally got his money. And again, I think those players will still get paid overall, but instead of a 5-year deal, it's, a 1-year pillow contract, and then I'll get my 4-year contract. And when there's too many free agents out on the market, that's when the contracts go down. That's why Marvin Miller, when he was, the head of the Players Association, basically said, no, we don't want everyone to be free agent all the time or, every single year. After 6 years, that's perfect, because then it's a slow drip. And then you talk about classes where you're like, who's the best free agent available? You're like, that guy's all right. Well, because that player is the best one in his class, he's going to get 150, close to $200 million. And that works out great for the Players Association. And I think now ownership is really starting to fight back. And that, again, I don't know that it's collusion, but they're getting smart enough to realize, hey, if we just stay firm with these shorter term deals, then it's going to kind of lower the expectations and flood the market. And you used to think about guys where they would want 6-year deals and they would get 6-year deals. And now that same player is hoping, to get 4, but they really only get 3.
Isn't it crazy though to sign a guy to a 10-year contract? I mean, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It just seems insane to me. I am a big, trust me, on one hand, I understand what athletes give, and I understand how much money these franchises make off of them, right? Just not the endorsement deals they get separately on their own, but essentially the endorsement deals with the ball club and how the ball club uses them to sell tickets and merchandise and all that stuff, right? It just seems crazy to me, though, with so many variables in a game like baseball, that you would give anybody that much time, and not have several out clauses or ability that if that player isn't performing to the level that they should be, that we can't restructure this deal or do something differently, right? Maybe something with more incentive-based contracts and less for a base salary. But if you reach 30 home runs, then you get like an insane extra amount of money, right? Like, not like, oh, hey, you get $300,000, $400,000 extra. Like, oh, if you hit 30 home runs, you're getting 15 million extra a year or whatever, right? So I don't know. I feel like with baseball, it's too easy for guys to get that money, find themselves to not be as motivated and hungry as they were, just like in any sport, and not perform. It's funny you're here, because one of the first big, huge contracts that didn't even seem to make sense to me as a baseball fan was Todd Helton. And wasn't that
Interesting.
was a big contract for the time, wasn't
Sure.
it? And
I mean, even Troy Tulowitzki's deal was big
sure.
at the time. And again, you know, to your point, as far as, you know, longer term deals that are very lucrative, you know, we don't know how much money these teams make. Like, they don't open up the books.
Correct.
So the fact that they give these deals out kind of willy nilly tells you all you need to know about, you know, the game's doing all right financially. So there's probably even more money.
Especially you guys in Colorado. I've seen those. I've seen the videos of, you know,
we sell plenty of the Brett Brews and Rocky Mountain oysters.
Yes,
although I've still yet to meet anybody out there that has eaten the Rocky Mountain oysters that they sell at Coors Field.
Yeah.
But with the Todd Helton deal, you know, again, when players sign those kind of extensions, you got to remember that in 5 years' time, what is considered a large, say, $13 million deal, that now becomes small potatoes, right? So you can look down the line and say, hey, okay, this veteran player might not have as much value, but we're going to pay him at the back end, so we maybe don't have to pay him as much, you know, in the front part of the deal. And if you're talking about a guy who's, you know, I wouldn't say it was a statue contract. I love that bit of selling by Scott Boras last year for the Tatis deal. He called it a statue contract, because if you sign a player to a $300 million 13-year deal,
you better be able to make a statue.
Exactly right. And so if it's a guy that's been in your organization for the entirety of his life and is on a Hall of Fame type trajectory, you go, well, whether he makes the Hall of Fame or not is kind of irrelevant. This guy's going to be an ambassador to our organization, and we don't want him to go away. And there's kind of a rare few that really get that designation, I think, all across baseball.
Sure.
But for Colorado, Helton's been the only one. They locked up Tulowitzki to a long-term deal, and then, hey, the money wasn't right anymore. They offloaded him to Toronto. You know, Walker already had a career in Montreal. Nolan Arenado was the next guy where he was going to be the next Todd Helton.
Yeah.
And I think he may have, you know, essentially stepped in and said, I don't know that I want to be the next Mr. Todd Helton, because of a lot of the trials and tribulations Todd had to go through, and the fact that, you know, he is a Hall of Famer, and yet he may have to wait all 10 years just like Larry Walker did. Yeah. And so that kind of changed the course of history as well.
And Paul Goldschmidt would probably be our closest thing to a statue player, I think. You know,
totally.
I just, again, sometimes when you put your feelings aside, right, for your fandom, and try to, you know, you put on your fedora of business, your business fedora, right, and you try to think in that way, you know, it wouldn't have made sense to keep someone like Paul Goldschmidt with a huge contract around during this period of time when they knew that most likely they were going to be rebuilding. It also, though, makes me question signing Madison Bumgarner to the big deal when you also knew a similar, you know, kind of thing, right? But here's the thing, guys. You guys can go to DraftKings Sportsbook. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Download it. Use our code of PHNX. And again, using just $1 on any NFL game or any NBA game, you'll get $100 in free bets should that team score a point. And as long as you're not betting, obviously, like I said, on the Alabama High School League, you shouldn't be worried about if those teams are going to score any points in a basketball game. But I am Mr. Parlay. I'm a big fan of doing parlays, same game parlays, multiple game parlays, multiple sport parlays. I'll never be as cool as this guy, though. Big Papa Parlay next to me. I'm still mad I didn't think of that nickname, and I lost sleep that night when you told me that that's what people call you.
He's really jealous, Patrick.
I know. Jesse knows. Jesse knows. I texted him. I'm like, I can't believe he's Big Papa Parlay, but you can be Big Papa Parlay too. Don't call yourself around this guy, though, because he'll say gimmick infringement. Combine multiple bets from a same game for a bigger payout. Combine multiple bets from multiple sports for a big payout. Whatever you want to do. But DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. It lets you do all of that. Best of all, it lets you deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want to. So get on there today. We're going to give you a DraftKings pick of the week a little bit later, but download it now. Prepare yourself for the pick of the week. It's solid information. It doesn't come from me. It comes from PD from the Coyotes. Spoiler alert. I'm going to tell you to bet against the Coyotes. Go download it now and use our code of PHNX. 21 and over only. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Dial 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And also, become a member over at our gophnx.com website. We got lots of great content up there for you guys to check out. If you're an Arizona sports fan, it never stops. All right. Right now we have some updates from the Arizona Fall League up there. Jesse had a great piece that we've both thoroughly enjoyed about Zach Greinke's contract coming to an end. And I also still have been diligently working on how much Jeff Bannister has made an impact on my life since our interview last week. So all of that will be available on gophnx.com. Become a member. You can either become an annual member and get a free t-shirt. And again, maybe go over to the Coyotes or the Suns, PHNX_Suns, PHNX_Coyotes. They might sweeten the deal for you as far as signing up for an annual membership. Or you can become a month-to-month member and you'll get your first month for 50 cents. That's just a little appetizer for you guys. And hopefully you'll enjoy the content enough to stick around. We appreciate the support and everybody already signing up. We've surpassed 1,000 subscribers and we're thrilled about that. And to be honest, right now we are just enjoying our 2-month anniversary here at PHNX. So we've really really enjoyed talking sports with you.
2-month anniversary?
What's that?
Is it today? I guess it was September 9th. Was that our lunch day?
So we were close. Okay. We were close right around then. But
you guys have done a lot in 2 months, because when people ask me where I'm from or what, who I write for, and I say DNVR, they go, "Is that any relation to PHNX?" Every single time.
That's awesome though.
That's amazing.
We get that. We get the DNVR stuff, obviously, and people, the thing that people typically follow up with, which I like, is that they're like, we love what those DNVR guys are doing. So you guys definitely leading the way for us. And I don't know, man, we talked about it in our meeting today, but it's just been a lot of fun to be a part of this. It's been an absolute honor to be a part of this. And it's so great to be able to talk about sports like this. I've worked in traditional media for a long time. And, to be honest, it's just not the same as being able to speak from the heart, give your opinion, and really enjoy talking about sports instead of, trying to be fit under the confines of professional journalism. You guys know me. Like, I know most of you are like, professional journalist, that guy. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm here. And that's why Jesse is going to be with me as my vice mayor. I'm bringing you back as my vice mayor. Jesse, Patrick's been downgraded to comptroller, but Jesse's with me for the rest of my life, just like my iPhone 13 that has a terabyte of memory. I bought that for that purpose, so I would die with that phone in my hand. And again, Jesse will be at my side when I die. But interestingly enough, I thought the Arizona Diamondbacks were dead in the water this season. Their talk about free agency has kind of dashed our hopes. We analyzed Mike Hazen's statement from the end of the season where he talked about not looking for external candidates to fill positional needs, and we've found enough qualifying statements and words in that sentence to keep them out of really saying that they switched their position, or we did go after some free agents even though we said we weren't going to. But Mike
under promise and over deliver, is that kind of the strategy?
I think so. I think it's setting expectations the right way. And I think it's also setting expectations that if they do bring in free agents, it's not going to be the ones that Jesse and I were doing yesterday when we were spending Ken Kendrick's money, right? It's not going to be, there might be a couple of gems. Jesse was very reasonable. Jesse was like, when you give a kid $10,
I gave one reasonable.
You were pretty reasonable even in your unrealistic ones, Jesse.
I said they should bring back Max Scherzer. I don't think that's gonna happen there.
and Robbie Ray. We want
Robbie Ray.
Oh, that's all.
We want to bring back all the free agents that we lost, basically. Well, no, but you were reasonable, and Jesse is like the kid you give $10 and he spends it responsibly, bought multiple things at the store, and didn't just buy candy. So I'm very proud of him. But yesterday, Mike Hazen said in an interview with AZ Central in regards to this team, and basically 2022 being another 2021 type season,
lost year.
He said, and I quote, "Yes," he said, "I want to move the ball forward." All right. Guessing football terminology there, weird for a baseball guy, but he said, "Yes, I get it," which maybe it's about the football terminology. I don't know what we're going to be able to buy. I don't know that we're going to be able to buy 40 wins in free agency. I'm not sure if that's realistic, but we want to move the ball forward. We are going to try to put better players on our team. So, Jesse, I'll start with you. This sounds like they're going to go after some players in free agency.
It does. Yeah. I think so. So we broke down Mike Hazen's initial words, right, on the press conference that he gave the day after the season ended, and it had a different tone to it, right? He was talking a lot more about the internal workings of the organization.
Yes.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily think that Mike Hazen is, making a U-turn here and completely going a different direction with this offseason and suddenly, he wants to spend money. I think this has probably been the plan all along. And on the day of that presser, right after the season ended, I think his focus, and rightfully so, was more on what's happening inside the organization. Because let's face it, even if the Diamondbacks did go get Carlos Correa, they still would not be a contending baseball team after winning 52 games.
That's the bigger point.
They have bigger problems than the amount of money they can or cannot spend in free agency. And so I think it was right for Mike Hazen to address, we need to first figure out how we're going to maximize the talent that we already have. I think that is priority number one for this baseball team. Yep. And now, as the offseason goes on, and Mike has probably had more conversations with ownership about what might happen this offseason. Obviously, earlier we talked about the salary floor, which would certainly change some things. It might even force the Diamondbacks to spend some more money. They are going to spend some money, and I think Mike, now that he's sort of talked about how internally we need to improve what's happening here. Yeah, also externally, the Diamondbacks, they're not going to go and do something crazy, but they need a third baseman. And they desperately need some bullpen help. And I do expect that the Diamondbacks will spend probably conservatively in both of those categories and bring in some external candidates.
I swear at one point you said they can spend some money. And I know what you were getting at there. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think that they are going to bring in some guys. I think that maybe fit the timeline, somebody along the same, like you and I have agreed in the past that if we are going to build around players on this team, it's Zach Gallen, it is Ketel Marte, and it is Carson, right? So if we can get to a point where this team is bringing in guys in that age range, in that group, and can, add young talent around it, it could be the nucleus that they're looking for to actually build around, right?
I'll also add that in an interview, Amil Sade, who works underneath Mike Hazen, mentioned the possibility of trading for a third baseman, that the Diamondbacks might look to acquire, a younger, controllable talent at third base. And that's something I could totally see. Like, that actually could be a pretty, you're not necessarily talking about a bottom tier third baseman. They actually could go for it and try to find a third baseman as long as they're controllable and will still be around here for a few years.
And so Josh Rojas is just better as more of a utility guy then? Because right now, I mean, you probably have to pencil him in, and has only like a little over a year of service time. So, I mean, you've got him for 4 more years. He's better as the first guy off the bench.
Well, Josh Rojas, I think they've played him entirely too many places. He's
played him basically everywhere.
I mean, he just hasn't. I don't think he's pitched, and I don't think he's caught. But aside from that, he's played everywhere. And I think the thing with Rojas is it's that case of we don't know what he can really do at a set position because we really haven't seen that out of him. What we've seen is maybe him being spread too thin and being utilized like that too much, where he's serviceable to good, maybe even okay at certain positions, but not great anywhere where that's where you would want to see him at, right? And I think with Rojas, he suffers from the same thing a few guys on this team suffer from. Now, Lovallo has said in the past that he likes to play that way, right? So that's the thing.
I think Rojas is a guy that you can expect to have some sort of a utility role moving forward. I don't think you have to pin him at one particular position. The question is just, is that position third base? And I think the answer is, I think third base is a place where he's going to probably back up as a utility guy, but probably not somewhere that they're trying to have him settle long term.
I still would love to go back and look at the depth chart for this team before the season started, because I swear to God, hand to the Bible, they had the same guy backing up several positions. And again, this might not be the official depth chart that Torey Lovallo is considering or using, but it was the depth chart that they had on the team website. So when you looked at it, you couldn't help but wonder, how the hell is this really going to work out if 2 of these guys get injured at the same time, which is exactly what happened all season long to this team. So it was maddening. you knew just from the go that they weren't deep enough. And forget being competitive. There were times where you looked at this depth chart before the season started and thought, what is going to happen if they have like any kind of injuries? And if you even thought that for a moment, it definitely came true. It is what came true, right? But the team already wasn't necessarily competitive even at that point. It was just like, wow, even your starters, even your lack of depth here seems like you're getting yourself into a problem. That's when we knew that the Diamondbacks weren't really, especially when all they added was bullpen arms, veteran bullpen arms to this team during the offseason, and spent a whole whopping $8 million on it, versus listening to the haul that some teams got during the offseason. It's just crazy.
I'll say this, looking at the Diamondbacks roster and their depth chart and their prospects, you guys are in a worse spot than the Rockies. I'll say that.
Yes.
And I think
Thanks, Patrick.
He's not
you're
wrong.
Welcome. You're welcome.
He's not wrong.
Because the talent at the major league level is better for Colorado right now, especially the starting rotation as far as depth goes. I mean, if we're talking,
depth is a disaster for the Diamondbacks right now.
Yeah, I know Mad Bum has been, less than stellar, but I'd probably rather have Bumgarner and Gallen over Marquez and Freeland. Not by a lot, but I would. But then when you get the third, fourth, and fifth guy in the rotation, I definitely would rather have what Colorado does. And again, with the players that are coming up through the Rockies pipeline, and the fact that there are a few more younger contributing players to the Rockies, where while McMahon, Tapia, and Freeland are all going to be free agents after the 2023 season, there's still going to be, Brendan Rodgers will still be around, Antonio Senzatella, Austin Gomber. There's still going to be other guys that are there, whereas in 3-4 years for the Diamondbacks, a lot of these guys will be moving on. Zach Gallen could be in his final year before free agency. And then, I think the Diamondbacks have done a good job in the draft and acquiring some prospects. Obviously, their big draft, what was that, in 2019, where they had 98 of the first 99 selections. I think roughly.
They drafted the entire the entire amateur draft went to the card.
The entire University of Texas at Austin baseball team I was drafted. So I think in that sense, Rockies are in a better state now, but with a couple of the right moves and maybe some freedom to, I'm not going to say tank, but if they do want to go more of a full rebuild, then you're going to get something really nice, a good return on. I could tell Marte, you can get Nick Ahmed off the books if you need to, and kind of look further on down the line. Yeah, that's probably a bad example, but Zach Gallen,
Nick Ahmed, unfortunately, I mean, they're paying him more than, at least for this last season, they paid him more than he was worth. I don't think you're going to get much of anything.
No, they may have to even deal a prospect with him in order to have
which
him.
I don't think this regime is going to do. Dave Stewart would have done that in a second, so. But I don't think
he would have done whatever.
Hey, I hear Shelby Miller's making a comeback.
Shut your mouth. I will kick you off
the show. 2 episodes, 2 Shelby Miller references.
I need
the
DNVR Rockies to take this guy back. I'm sick of him already. Especially, we're going to get to our D-Rocks snake draft and the results of that, where you cheated. Basically you cheated. But before we get there, I just want to once again remind everybody to use our code of PHNX, not this guy's DNVR, but PHNX over at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet $1 on the NBA or the NFL for either team to score. It's a ridiculous promotion. You're going to get your money and get your $100 in free bets. Then you can turn around and make more money with our DraftKings picks of the week. I am going to give you one for Thursday night football tonight, and that is Devonta Freeman over 45.5 rushing yards. It's not going to make you a ton of money. You might want to match that up with Marquise Brown, anytime touchdown. That's what I like. Lamar Jackson also probably have some rushing attempts. I think I took the over on rushing attempts at 9.5. Another thing that I want to tell you guys to pick is bet against the Coyotes. Just do it. Maybe not against the Blackhawks. I might avoid that particular game, but I have made so much money. Are they hot right now? Okay, well then bet against the Blackhawks too. Definitely bet on the Predators to beat them on Saturday though. I really haven't lost a whole lot of money betting against the Coyotes, so God bless them for being terrible. again, I've said this about the Diamondbacks. You guys have heard me say it before. Just because they're losing doesn't mean you have to. Go get the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Let's also talk a little bit more about losing. We had our D-Rocks snake draft the other day. Snake draft in D-Rocks. We had our pal Patrick join us. And let's show our teams really quickly. We took to social media, had everybody vote on this. Jesse's terrible team that had Daniel Descalso as the number one pick. But nobody's team is worse than mine, because apparently I selected a guy named Matt Reynolds for the overall pick, my number one overall pick. So I guess I deserve very much so to lose, but we're taking a look at our poll results. Of course, our winner is this guy over here, Patrick. I hate you, and you ruined my game. But Patrick wins with 46% of the votes. Maybe much like
Patrick is the only one who had a viable first round pick. So.
Yeah, that's true. Matt Reynolds isn't getting it done, I guess.
No.
But Jesse, I did come in second over you with 30% of the votes. You had 24%. Much like the D-backs and the Rockies, though, if we team up and gang up on this guy, well, then the PHNX D-backs podcast won with 54% of the votes. Yeah, we won.
You could do it that way.
Sorry. Sorry.
I'll give you this. Matt Reynolds was a actual player that did play for both the Diamondbacks and Rockies. So that's a real guy who does exist.
No.
So it doesn't look that atrocious.
No, it does. It does, because you can't make it better by saying that. It's not that. It's Mark Reynolds. That's why I lost. If they would have seen Mark Reynolds up there, they would have known.
That would have been helpful. Jesse, since you're short on nicknames and you did finish in third place here in a essential election in which 46%, ended up winning, you can be the Ross Perot. So, I don't know if that's a great nickname or a reference that even some people get.
He's not going to get that. No, he's not going to get that.
He's not going to get a Ross Perot reference?
He doesn't know television shows from the 90s. He knows nothing.
His mustache looks like it was at least born in the late 80s, no?
All of his information is just baseball stats and math.
The mustache is from the late 80s. I can confirm. Yes.
By the way, I really appreciate having two math teachers on my show today. This is fantastic.
That's why I'm the comptroller, man. I'm good with the numbers.
I know. This is great. I feel very inadequate when it comes to trying to do stats around you two guys. But Patrick, I've had an absolute blast around Arizona Fall League with you. Jesse, I have a blast with you every single day. But you guys get out to Arizona Fall League. There's not a lot of time left. There is 7 days left? There's 1 week from this Saturday is the championship game. So not a lot of opportunities to go out. This Saturday is the Fall Stars game. The D-backs only have one representative in the Fall Star game.
That was on my list of things to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was essentially, who the heck is Shumpei Yoshikawa?
Well, Yoshikawa is one of 6 D-backs players. He's a reliever, and I'm pretty sure that Slade Ciccone was going to be their representative. However, he reached his innings limit and then was pulled. So he was the one that really was kind of the big name that people were interested in, and he didn't disappoint. He had a pretty good fall league. So I'm not too mad about that, but I also don't, it's the fall league. So I'm not surprised that there's not a lot of representation. Like I said, they haven't been having a great, the Raptors have not had a great season as far as the fall league is concerned.
This relationship is working out well, I think, for Rockies fans and for me too, as someone who's covering the Rockies, because we can look and say, as rough as things are for the Colorado Baseball Club and as difficult as it can be to follow the team and see what they do, just look down at the bottom of the standings and see what's going on with Arizona with their one prospect in the Fall Stars game. And you go,
get out. No, get out. No, we're done.
Hey, we got 2 guys and a fan vote for Michael Tolia.
I'm sending you back to Colorado. This is Patrick D. Lyons on Twitter. You can get him at Patrick D. Lyons. Jesse's at Jesse N. Friedman. Everybody's using their full name and middle initial around here except me. I am Cap_Caveman with a K. But the show can be found at PHNX_D-backs. All roads lead to at PHNX_sports. That's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Please follow us everywhere. If you're listening to us right now on your favorite audio podcasting app, subscribe to us there. Drop us a 5-star review. Again, I know I'm not a 5-star man. This guy over here is definitely a 5-star man. And Jesse Friedman is a 5-star man. So drop us a 5-star review. Go over to YouTube if you're not watching us there and subscribe there. Sign up for notifications. And if you're watching us on YouTube, do the other stuff I said about the audio podcasting. But we appreciate you guys so much. Become a member, join us. We'll be on the members only Discord. You have all the shirt deals. I think right now the members have a buy one, get one free on any Sun shirt on the PHNXlocker.com.
Nice.
So yes, those shirts are great. Get the one was based on my tattoo. You can't see it in all of this sunshine, but and also check out this sunshine. If you're an East Coaster or something right now, this is real. This isn't artificially generated.
We don't have this kind of, we do have a lot of sunshine in Colorado,
but it's just
right
cold.
now
It's cold.
It's on the cooler side. And I said it a couple of days ago, the DNVR bar, we've got the back stock of all the PHNX shirts. So there's no supply chain issues.
Absolutely.
Get those orders in now. Just put it out of your head.
That's right. Get it in time for the
deliveries
holidays.
will get made. You won't have to make any apologies and say, hey, sorry, maybe in January, February, you'll get your gift. No, it'll be there. You can
I'm gonna have to give you a card that says when your gift will get here, or like some sort of invoice. That's always weird. No, you're absolutely right. Get all of your holiday gift shopping done with the PHNX. Give someone a membership. Get them a free t-shirt. Got yourself set. You are the hero of the holiday season. We thank you guys again so much on behalf of Patrick, Jesse, and myself. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you give people PHNX memberships for the holiday season.